name is Kayla. I am the co-chair for Women for BW, and I'm a proud member of BW class of 1996 and 2002. Thank you. Welcome to the 2024 Women for BW Summer Social. I hope you all enjoyed the performances from our Conservatory of Performing Arts students, Arthur Ross and Julia Kayla. They are both four-year students with BW's Conservatory of Performing Arts. Arthur Ross is majoring in psychology and music theory for cello, while Julia Grady is majoring in music composition and viola performance. You can read more about them in your programs. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you all for attending, and I'd especially like to thank our Women for BW members and ask them to please stand or raise a hand to be recognized. Thank you for your membership and your support of BW students. For those of you who may not be familiar with Women for BW or who are joining us for the first time today, welcome. Women for BW is a support organization of BW built on the legacy of the established by the BW Women's Club, which was founded in 1921. The group strengthens the course of women's philanthropy through the power of programming, engagement, and collective giving. 100% of membership funds are used to support the Giving Circle Awards for students, faculty, and staff, which award more than $20,000 in awards for special projects benefiting BW Women students each year. Members not only support these projects with funding, but have also had the chance to vote for them to receive funding, meaning you get a say where your dollars go. This fall, we gave nearly $21,000 to 8 recipients. I personally was a member of the BW Women's Club and now Women for BW because I love to see the opportunities that these women, amazing women, are getting with their education at BW, the things that they're continuing to do after graduation. Joining Women for BW provides the opportunity to create amazing impact and establish a network of extraordinary BW women. Today, we are hoping to sign up 5 new Women for BW members. I hope you'll consider joining this extraordinary group of women that make an impact on BW students. You can easily add your table with the QR code or on the table tents or visit the registration table on your way out to make a pledge, flexible payment plan, or to learn more. If you sign up for membership the 2024-2025 year, you will be able to vote in our Giving Circle Awards next year in the fall of 2025. Speaking of, one of our 2023 faculty and staff Special Project Award recipients is here with us today to share an update on her project. Dr. Colleen Tokar Assad, BW Associate Professor of the Department of Finance and Analytics in BW's Carmel Boyer School of Business, received the Faculty and Staff Special Project Award to establish a personal finance library at BW and a financial wellness club for students. You can find her full bio in your programs. Please welcome me in joining her to the podium.
I just wanted to say thank you to the Women for BW for the Grants Award in the fall for the Personal Finance Library. It is really exciting. I spent a lot of time this summer working through things. It took quite a bit of time, more than I thought, to find a home for the library, but it will be in Ritter Library. So it'll be accessible to faculty, staff, students, alumni, the whole BW community. We recently ordered, I should have counted, a lot of books, $5,000 worth of books. And I custom ordered this it's funded by Women for BW stamp. So there's a stamp in all of the books. It's also sorted into 9 different categories with labels. And the library will be open starting this fall, which is really just in a couple weeks, the start of the fall semester. So it'll be in Ritter. We also have, with the Financial Wellness Club, some programming coming up. We're starting with workshop Wednesdays. So every Wednesday we'll have a 30-minute session and hopefully more to come. So I'll be around if you have any ideas, suggestions, questions, please let me know. And thanks again.
Thank you, Colleen, and thank you, Kathy, for your leadership of Women for BW. So today I am going to have the great pleasure in leading the panel discussion as the moderator. Our panel discussion today is Rise and Thrive, Thinking Like a Woman Entrepreneur and Building Your Brand. For those of you who I may not have met just yet, I'm Maddie Wallace from the class of 2016 and BW's Director of Alumni Engagement. And I have to say, I'm very humbled to get to moderate this panel of fantastic women in entrepreneurship and self-branding professionals. It's pretty incredible what these ladies do. So I'm excited to introduce them today. But before we introduce them, I'll have them make their way up to their seats to get settled in for the panel. While they're doing that, I want to recognize two students that are also with us today, representing the Sophomore Women's Empowerment and Mentorship Program. They are recruiting mentors for this academic year and would love the ladies in this room to all be involved. Emily and Madeline, would you please raise your hands so people can come find you? Yes, please give them a round of applause. They're here attending an event during their summertime. They're on summer break. So thank you for joining us, Emily and Madeline. Please make sure to chat with them if mentorship is something that you're interested in. They're currently seeking mentors for sophomore women who are looking for more leadership and empowerment in their experience as they move on to their careers at BW. So thank you for being here. Now on to our panel discussion. So I want to make a quick note. We have some folks joining us online today. For those joining us, thank you so much. Feel free to add your questions in the Q&A section on the bottom of your Zoom screen. My colleague Chloe will be monitoring the Q&A throughout the presentation and will ask your questions on your behalf. And at the end, please feel free to stick around for our closing remarks and save the date for upcoming events. Now on to our panelists. I'm going to pass off a microphone for them. All right. And so I'll go through everybody's bio really quickly, but please feel free to reference your program as well, where you can find the full bios printed. First, I want to recognize our very, very generous host for today's event, Malisse Sinito from the class of 1988. Malisse is the president of Savor Hospitality Group, and as president, Malisse sets the strategy for and oversees the operations of a dynamic collection of culinary establishments from fine dining to fast casual, such as Il Venetian, Marble Room Steaks and Raw Bar, and LockKeepers. Savor Hospitality is also the management company behind the Cleveland Marriott downtown at Key Tower and owner-manager of Day Spa Ascend in Key Tower. Malisse started her culinary career in 1992, right here at LockKeepers, where she has led the transformation of an unassuming neighborhood pub, you would never know it, into a sophisticated mainstay. So thank you, Malisse, for being a part of the panel. Next is Kayla Starta from the class of 2015. I like the hoop and holler, and that's good. Kayla is a co-founder and chief marketing officer of Refresh Digital Strategy, a Webflow website development and digital marketing agency with locations in Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Charlotte. Kayla started her entrepreneurial journey by launching her own digital marketing firm, Starta Strategies. After several years in business and a strategic merger, Starta continues to serve small and medium-sized businesses in a greater capacity through Refresh Digital Strategy. In her spare time, Kayla enjoys working with students to advise and mentor them down the path of entrepreneurship. Thank you, Kayla, for being here. Finally, we have Kate Lenahan from the class of 2022. She is BW's LaunchNet program manager, where she plays a pivotal role in fostering entrepreneurial growth among students, alumni, and employees. With a focus on nurturing entrepreneurial mindsets, Kate provides resources through one-on-one venture coaching, diverse programmatic offerings, and strategic partnerships within the BW community and the Northeast Ohio entrepreneurial ecosystem. LaunchNet is one of our event sponsors today as well, so thank you, LaunchNet. And under Kate's, oh please, yes, give it up for them too. So under Kate's leadership, the LaunchNet Micro Grants and Morgan Startup Grants Initiative have awarded over $72,000 in funding through 55 grants to 54 ventures at BW, with more than 61% of those ventures led by women identifying entrepreneurs. That's something to clap for too. Thank you, Kate. So today, our panelists will not only provide insights about their personal and professional journeys through entrepreneurship, but leave you with inspirational perspectives that apply to your life and career aspirations, no matter your field. So if you're not yet ready to seek a venture, these ladies are still here to help you. We'll spend about a half hour with our panel of entrepreneurs, learning how to develop an entrepreneurial mindset and craft your brand. And then we'll leave a few minutes at the end for Q&A with our panelists, but we'll keep it brief because we want you to put into practice what you're gonna learn here today and seek them out for those one-on-one conversations as well, and get everybody back to know networking and socializing. So before we jump into the panel, wanted to set the stage with a few quick points, and I wanted to start with a quick poll. So who in the room is already an entrepreneur? Would you raise your hand? A good person, that's pretty amazing. That's awesome. Who is interested or like seeking to start a venture at some point? Okay, we got a couple brave arms. Who is interested in improving their personal brand? All right, we should all be brave for that, right? Always room. And then who's here just to learn a little bit more about entrepreneurship? Okay, love that. And then who's here probably just like me to enjoy food and drinks that LockKeepers have to offer? It's a great spread. Thank you very much again to Malisse and her team for the wonderful food and drinks that they provided. There's no shame in being here just for that too. So, wanted to start a little bit with what is the entrepreneurial mindset? According to the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, an entrepreneurial mindset is a set of skills that enable people to identify and make the most of opportunities, overcome and learn from setbacks, and succeed in a variety of settings. Research shows that an entrepreneurial mindset is valued by employers, boosts educational attainment and performance, and is crucial for creating new businesses. So my first question has to do with that sense of entrepreneurial mindset, and what that really looks like. So Kate, given your experience with helping fresh entrepreneurs, I wanted to ask, do you think that definition captures the entrepreneurial mindset? What do you think that the key components of an entrepreneurial mindset are, and how can they be cultivated?
Absolutely. One of the things that we work to develop and launch that, whether we're working one-on-one with clients or visiting students in the classroom, is to really bring out that entrepreneurship doesn't have just one look, one face, one feel. It embodies a lot of different qualities that we already use daily. And part of this idea of branding yourself is using an entrepreneurial mindset in itself. So we talk about key components of entrepreneurship being creativity, willing to take risk, persistence and grit, and a lot of chances that happen when you're trying to cultivate something new or redefine what something has already looked like in the environment. So really keeping that idea fresh and new, always willing to try to spark something new, whether it be a conversation with someone or just sitting down and ideating with yourself. So really adding those points to it, that the entrepreneurship mindset is really just that, it's a mindset. It's meant to be evolved and developed, and that can be done in many different ways.
Thank you, Kate. Flag that point about risk and grit here in a moment. We'll have some fun things to talk about here in a moment, dig into that. So my question now for Malisse is, what does it really mean to think like a woman entrepreneur in today's world, even if you're not a business owner or seeking a venture?
Well, we talked about this on the phone the other day, and I said, strangely for me, I don't like to identify as a female entrepreneur. I like to be an entrepreneur. I never feel like I'm coming from behind, or I have to get to somewhere. I just don't have that kind of mindset. So I feel like we're all on an equal playing field here. So when I meet an entrepreneur that's a male, I think we have a lot in common. So entrepreneurship to me means taking a dream or an idea and turning it into reality, and whatever that takes. So big emphasis on the whatever it takes, because it takes a lot, and it takes directions, and it takes things that you didn't expect you were going to have to feed it in order to grow and to become what you want. So to me, that would be the definition.
Thank you, Malisse. And how about you, Kayla? I'd love to hear from you too. What do you think it takes to be an entrepreneur in this world today?
I would say, I mean, even just comparing Lisa's differences to Maryland, I think she makes some excellent points where it's, there's a lot of equal opportunity, equal playing field when it comes to, there's a lot of ideas to be generated. There's a lot of money to be had. There's so much opportunity. So gender is not necessarily a barrier, but I think something that, or what it means to me to be a female entrepreneur is to have control over my everything from my lifestyle to my, the money that I'm generating to the people that I'm employing. And I think for that, women traditionally obviously have had to fill a lot more roles than a man. So I think for me, growing up, not having a lot of, I didn't even know entrepreneurship was an option. I was just going to go and, attend college, and I just didn't know that, that option was going to be there. So I think for me, opening up the world of entrepreneurship has just shown that a lot a lot more is possible than I ever thought, at least, growing up in BW developed that. We'll get to that later.
Thank you, Kayla. And hang on to that microphone because we're going to talk a little bit more about personal brand. I think your comments about having that sense of control, it's really key here in a personal brand too, and how you develop that. So just sharing really quickly, according to Harvard Business Review, personal branding is intentional, strategic practice in which you define and express your own value proposition. It's the amalgamation of the association, beliefs, feelings, attitudes, and expectations that people collectively hold onto you. Pretty important to craft your intentionality, I would think. So Kayla, this is absolutely your wheelhouse and what you do. How do you define a personal brand when you're working with your clients, especially those who don't come from this world? And why is a personal brand crucial for women and professionals?
Great question. So I think a lot of it comes down to the why when you're branding yourself. So you think of a lot of different things. You think of branding, you think of photos, you think of what your social media may look like, your business cards, like all these different elements of your brand. But I think it always just comes back to the why and making sure that your audience knows the intention behind what you do. When it comes to, say I'm working with, so we at Refresh, we work with a lot of smaller entities. A lot of times they're solopreneurs who may have started, but now have grown to a couple different franchises, but they're small mom and pop shops that we work with. So an example of this being a lot of the times, depending on the industry, but if it's a lot of the times a service-based industry, even like myself, as much as I don't like to admit it, like a lot of the times it does help for me to show up on camera or to, be more at the forefront of the brand because people like to buy from people. And I think that's something that I always remind my clients is it can be very uncomfortable and you don't need to plaster your life all over the internet. There's a balance. But when you do show up on social media, when you are developing your personal brand, consider those what's the why, what is the passion behind what you do. Don't be afraid to show a picture of you, up till midnight doing XYZ, putting together business plans and sharing that on LinkedIn. So being more personal and just real because people don't have time for, cookie cutter.
Thank you, Kayla. Malisse, I'm interested in your perspective on personal brand too, because you run not just a business that is your own personal brand, but really several brands within one. So talk to me a little bit about how you've developed a brand for all of your different ventures within Sabre Hospitality Group, and how does your personal brand inform some of that?
I like to take the back seat, so I put myself out there kicking and screaming usually, where I'm like, absolutely not put them on TV, but sometimes you have no choice, you have to do it, like you just said. Sometimes it's gotta be you, because no one can articulate your vision as well as you can, and everyone else is doing it in a scripted way. So I will do it in very small pieces. For the company in general, each of my restaurants or every business that I may be involved with has its own personality. So they're kind of like my children, and they all deserve lots of attention. And they all have unique qualities about them, that they have good traits and bad traits sometimes. And so we're constantly highlighting the good traits and trying to match them up with the guest or the consumer that's gonna fit well with what they have to offer. So they're all treated a little bit separately.
That's helpful to hear too, because I think we'll talk a little bit more about being a woman and having a unique perspective when it comes to entrepreneurship and just a different approach than men may have. So
That maternal thing, by
Yeah.
the way, that's where I say, oh, I'm the same as every man and every entrepreneur. And then I get like, oh, mama bear, so then it all goes out the window sometimes, because I do feel very maternal towards my businesses, towards my teams, my employees. So that is a time when I will say that this female side of the entrepreneur, that maybe it's an age thing more than a sex thing. But there is a definite maternal feeling of how I manage now compared to how I managed probably 30 years ago.
there's a lot of love and care that goes
There
into
is.
each of them. You can definitely feel it. I think LockKeepers is a really good example, going from that unassuming neighborhood bar to this incredible place. So thank you for taking such great care. So a couple of quick facts about women in entrepreneurship, because I think it's helpful just to set the stage, especially as we look at men versus women and what we may be facing as women as we look at entrepreneurship. So there's reportedly 14 million women-owned businesses that make up about 39.1% of all US businesses. So only about 39.1% female-owned. And then a 13.6% increase from 2019 to 2023. And they're coming out of the pandemic stronger than the 2008 financial crisis, especially those owned by women of color, which is really exciting to see. That said, we know obstacles remain for women, and men still outnumber women 3-to-1 when it comes to business ownership, as reported by the World Economic Forum. Some of these obstacles may include lack of access to finance and illegal inequalities, including restrictions on owning or managing property. And then there's also data that shows that caring and homeschooling responsibilities helped take women away from the workforce through the pandemic. Many of women in this room may have experienced that. And they also experience adverse effects on job losses during that time, especially in hospitality and retail in some cases. So as a result, women's participation in the workforce fell from 60.1% in the 2021 edition of Forum's 146 country report to 51.7% this year. So a pretty substantial jump. To that end, we can see why women are a fast-growing group of new business owners. Perhaps many in this room have decided to take on a new venture during the pandemic or because of a job loss potentially. Could be an opportunity. Additionally, statistically, women are more averse to risk than men. So here comes our risk and grit conversation. It's interesting to think about women as they take that leap again to start that venture and to put into place this entrepreneurial mindset. So Malisse, I'm curious, how did you get started knowing that it's scary to jump in?
This again came from a circular conversation about how you got started and what truly is entrepreneurship. And I said, you know, it's all about risk. It's when you're ready to take the risk, when you're ready to sign the lease, to buy the equipment, to purchase inventory, to set aside so many dollars you're willing to lose, and then know that those dollars can balloon in 3 months to more than you expected to lose. So risk it's there. It's definitely maybe smaller if you can start off very small as a sole practitioner, service provider, than if you have to go out and open up a restaurant per se, or some manufacturing company. I had to admit that every time I was faced with the risk of purchasing, signing, building, I said no. Every single time. When this building was gonna be built, I told my husband, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's so big, are you crazy? What if we can't fill it? How are we gonna do it? He said, don't worry about it, we're gonna figure it out. Okay, and then I figure it out. And for marble room steaks and marble are probably the riskiest, that one of a long line of very risky things that my husband's done. He had purchased this old office building called the Garfield Building downtown to convert it into apartments. And part of the building was this old, big, gorgeous, abandoned bank hall. He had found someone to lease the space, Jeffrey B. Steakhouse, actually out of Cincinnati, very famous guy with a great reputation. And I had been home for years. I came into work here once in a while because this was pretty well run. And the deal between the two of them blew up the week before they needed the lease for the bank, the mortgage. So he came home and said, you have to do this. I'm like, do what? What are you talking about? He said, you have to put a restaurant in this space because they backed out and I had no one to go to and we have to do it now. You have to do it yourself. Like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know anything about downtown. I don't know anything about Cleveland. I haven't been in the market for years. He said, well, we don't have a choice. So that's kind of how sometimes this stuff gets started. So we came in with a vision of, you know, what do we envision here? And by this time I had grown children who could be very helpful, right? Because the age gap, and they kind of brought a new perspective to what people might have wanted compared to old me, who doesn't even go downtown and was in the suburbs asleep by 9 o'clock. So we kind of collaborated and talked about, hey, what could this look like? How can we make this different? Why would people come downtown? You know, what's going to be unexpected about it? And again, to this day, I'll say it's one of the riskiest things. There was no parking lot, doesn't have a parking lot. So we come downtown in Valet Park. The valet company doesn't work for us. They work for the Holiday Inn next door. The valet people drive your car to parking garages around the blocks that are nearby, because we don't have parking. And that's downtown, that's part of what I found out. But interestingly, I found out that people love to come downtown and dine. Who knew? Like, we're busy and people come in and people come in from out of town and there's concerts and sporting events and, we've worked super duper hard and just every single day we go in, you know, me and my team, we meet and talk about how can we improve, how do we do this something better next week than we did last week? Every single week, every single day, it's about what can we do cool, what can we do new, what can we do different, how do we do it better? And so far, knock on wood, we're still open, so that's kind of the story.
I'd say better than open if you've ever been to Marble Room. So I guess, Kayla, that has me thinking, especially Malisse, hearing you talk about your kids getting involved in their perspective. I'd love to hear from you, Kayla, as a younger professional, as a young entrepreneur yourself. What perspectives and experiences do you bring as an entrepreneur, and how does that help your clients?
That's a great question. I mean, I would say kind of back to just, I've been the type of person that has just kind of thrown myself into things. I throw myself into maybe too much into my clients, just livelihood. But sometimes it holds me back, but I think most of the time it is kind of what I like to think sets me apart from the other, person that's gonna say they're gonna do your marketing down the street. Whether that's an age perspective or not, I just think it's more so the perspective I learned. Again, that's what I want, from my career, is to have that in, really deep investment in my clients. And if they're successful, then I'm not only successful, but it's just fulfillment for me. So I think that's probably, I think that perspective that I'd say I bring.
Nice, thank you, Kayla. And then Kate, a question for you. What are you seeing with your clients? You work with clients from all perspectives. So talk to us a little bit about how do they make the leap? What do you all talk about to get them started?
Well, I think one of the things that I'll acknowledge tonight is I think I counted 7 or 8 of our LaunchNet women entrepreneurs here tonight that are grant recipients from our program, which is awesome. I think when it comes to this idea of taking a leap and how to support folks, the pandemic did a lot for a lot of people. I think I saw it in myself when I made a career shift. You'll see that 2022 BW grad wasn't my undergrad graduation year. I'm not quite 21 years old anymore, but it's something that you see happen in all stages of life, and that it doesn't have to be something that occurs so early that if you don't do this, it's never going to happen. And I think we see that when we're sending, young students out to higher ed. It's like, hey, you're picking your career, you're picking what you have to do. And one of the beautiful things about Evolve Malisse education and a liberal arts degree is there are so many opportunities to engage within these different areas and things, and you're really learning a skill set. You're not necessarily taking your English degree to go be an English person. That is not what we do with these degrees anymore. And it's the same thing in entrepreneurship. We're taking these skill sets that you can learn in a variety of different fields and applying them in ways. And so I think with a lot of our entrepreneurs we see in the LaunchNet space is they're coming from all these different areas and backgrounds, and they take a skill set and are reapplying it in something that they're passionate about. So personally, I spent a decade as a professional opera singer, and COVID, my career shut down. And I said, okay, what am I gonna do? And I was in Cleveland in between opera contracts. I moved back in with my parents at 28 years old. And I said, I'm gonna go get another degree. And I came to BW and I worked in a variety of different internships, one of which was in the alumni engagement office, which is really fun to be back with so many wonderful women I had the chance to work with as a student. And I was hired on to LaunchNet before I graduated. And now I get to take the knowledge of entrepreneurship that I learned out in the creative field and apply it to so many different businesses. I don't know the first thing about building an app, and I have 2 wonderful women here tonight who are working on those. I have no idea what it looks like to own a brick and mortar, but I work with clients who serve delicious pastries, I might add, in areas in Cleveland that we just didn't have access to before. So I think the skill set is really that piece, and it's being able to redefine what you want to do with that skill set and how it applies to something that you continue to be passionate about, even if that's not what you originally intended it to be.
That flexibility, I'm sure, is key. Any comments to add, Malisse or Kayla, on that?
100%. I mean, that's really 100% everything you just said. I know. The flexibility. I mean, I was a poli-sci major and a double major, business communication and poli-sci. but I worked in restaurants through college, bartended, cocktails served in the flats and whatnot, so I was getting kind of real world education at the same time. But a liberal arts education, as you all know here, it just applies to everyday life and everything that I do, I go from marketing, I go to operations, I go to financial meetings, I go to HR, bad situations, sometimes great situations. I go to cleaning, I go to, just about every single thing in the business that you can do, I go from one to the other all day long, and it's that flexibility, so that's entrepreneurship right there.
Yeah, that foundation of a liberal arts education really sets you up to be multifaceted and
Absolutely.
almost like a utility player, it seems. Very good.
We're utility players,
Yes. Kayla, anything else to add there before we move on?
Just that I think you just epitomized the entrepreneurship mindset, at its core, whether you are working for yourself or a corporation or a family business or anywhere, it is about not feeling limited to one career track. And I think that's the biggest takeaway is that.
one aspect of.
Right.
Right, you can only approach it from the financial.
Exactly, yeah, having all those different viewpoints, yeah, when you sometimes may not have a choice.
Doctor them to the whole body versus.
Holistic.
There you go, holistic approach.
Holistic approach.
Well, I promise we didn't pay these folks to say this about it. I promise, no one is being paid. So really quickly, I want to go back to personal branding and developing it in that entrepreneurial mindset. So Kayla, I want to ask you, because branding is your game. What strategies can women use to build a strong and authentic personal brand and to advance their career opportunities, no matter what they're doing?
I immediately gravitate towards the digital side with what I do, but I would say to utilize LinkedIn as a tool if you're not already, and if you don't think it may be a fit for you or it's too stuffy for you. I mentioned before, especially since the pandemic, I've seen a lot more opportunity open up on LinkedIn. It has the most potential for organic reach, meaning you don't have to pay LinkedIn to get your name out there, which Facebook and Instagram, that's sometimes a different story, it can be harder to get reach. So if you're, a little scared about social media, I would definitely look into LinkedIn and utilize every feature that you can read about that's available to get yourself out there in whatever vehicle you choose, whether that is a blog or social media, just use that to tell your story and go into the why, not just, I want to launch a business doing pet grooming. Why? Oh, because I've been passionate about animals my entire life. I'm an advocate for, rescue. People care about that and they care about the why. So I would say, again, no matter what vehicle of branding you use, always go back to that.
Thank you, Kayla. Hey, a similar question for you, that regardless of someone's career aspirations or industry, what's one concrete way that they can start to implement that entrepreneurial mindset?
I think events like this and stepping outside of your comfort zone to interact with a group either you're familiar with because we have BW in common, or just in other ways to engage within the community, whether it be in something you're familiar with or unfamiliar with, just kind of depending on your comfort level at the time. But taking opportunities to meet face to face, like Kayla said, there's so many great ways to interact digitally. But sometimes the best thing we can do is just meet someone in person, whether it's grabbing coffee one-on-one or coming to an event like this just to build a new connection. I know I've already met some women tonight who I haven't had the opportunity to meet before, didn't know that I existed on campus, and I'm so excited that I got to see them tonight because I wouldn't have had the chance to make this connection otherwise. And I'm hopeful that lots of you have had this opportunity as well, whether it's in business or just finding someone you want to be friends with because they're really cool and awesome. I think those opportunities really just give you chances to grow in ways, whether it be entrepreneurially period or in that entrepreneurial mindset where you kind of find that growth over and over again.
Really great points. I think the sense of community that we feel as women, and especially within the BW community, I think that really embodies what Women for BW is all about. So
100%.
yeah, thank you for saying that. And a little bit more about why all of us are here. It's really leadership, empowering women, that sense of community. So for all of you, but I'd like to start with you, Malisse. How can women use their personal brand and their entrepreneurial mindset to drive meaningful change, achieve their goals, inspire other women, or create impact for women in their community? You're a great example of this.
Perplexed. How can we use our personal brand to
Drive change, inspire others, empower folks.
I think to me, it's just, you have to do it. You have to every day get up and live it and do it and say, I want to positively change today. I want to positively change my company. I want to positively just change my department if I am an employee. That's where you can bring that entrepreneurial mindset to a job that you may not own the business, but you can walk in and say, how do I take what I do control and change it in a positive way and apply some creativity and not just look at it through the same lens that we're looking at something every day, the same problem, the same tasks that we're asked to do every day. So I think, is that correct?
Definitely, I
Okay.
think it's perfect. I think Women for BW, it's kind of founded on that principle of we're extraordinary, we're bringing these great perspectives and we're striving for something more. And I think that's exactly what you
It's the
just said.
question that you're asking
Yeah.
yourself every day is, am I just doing this or am I making something better? Right? And when you make something better, it's fun. It just gets fun. All of a sudden, I go to some of my teams and some of the businesses that I have and it's fun. You sit down and it's just wild ideas and stupid ideas and great ideas and ideas sometimes that we start sketching on a napkin and next thing you know, I'll tell you a little marketing story actually, because it's one of my favorite stories, I should say. Every Wednesday at Marble when we meet and sit at a round table, the management and talk. And it was before the NBA weekend and I think it was NBA All-Star or there was a fight in Cleveland and Dave Portnoy, I don't know if anyone's a Dave Portnoy Barstool Sports fan or follow or whatever. He does the one bite pizza reviews. Okay, so we're a steakhouse and I'm like, oh my gosh, Dave Portnoy's gonna be in town. That is so cool. Like, how can we get him into Marble? How are we gonna lure him in? How are we going to, and it's not about luring him in, how are we gonna get him to do a pizza review? Because we don't do pizza. That's so cool. And so literally we're sitting around with chefs like drawing on a napkin and we're talking about other subjects and other topics as we're going around, but yet it's still on all of our minds. And all of a sudden the manager says, I said, what if we put steak on it? Like we make a pizza with steak. And the manager next to me said, we're gonna call it Carpizio. I'm like, Carpizio is amazing. What a great idea. So the chef's drawing away and whatnot. And we kind of like left the room like, ha ha ha. I contact my son who's 22, knows everybody. I'm like, hey, do you know anyone who knows anybody who, she said, oh yeah, I got a girl I used to date him. I'm gonna text her. She's gonna text him, let him know what we're doing. I'm like, okay, cool. And next, chef puts on this Carpizio on the menu and says, here, try this. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's amazing. It's got fresh shaved truffles on top. It's $125 pizza. He's making it by hand. He's literally making them. It takes him like 30 minutes. You can have it a stuffed crust or unstuffed crust, either way, 2 ways to order it. Anyway, lo and behold, he ends up making a reservation, comes in for dinner. I'm there like, I can't believe we came. He's not expecting anything. He's just sitting down having dinner. And the chef comes out and brings him this Carpizio and said, we'd love you to try this. And he's like, what the heck? And he does his pizza reviews, if you've ever seen him outside of a pizza shop, out of the box. It's one bite. Well, he sat there and they filmed. And he did a pizza review inside Marble Room at a table. And he posted it and it got like 1 million views. So that was like the idea of fun idea from a sketch to absolute, it happened and it's amazing. So,
Well, that's that ingenuity and that being willing to take the risk, right? Just putting yourself out there. Kayla, Kate, any additional thoughts there?
Yeah, right beside so many things you said about keeping it interesting and keeping it always just coming up with ideas. And I think that is the hardest part about, okay, it's one thing to have an idea, but it's one thing to wake up every single day and choose to pursue that idea. When things go wrong, that's what the number one reason why, entrepreneurs don't succeed. It's the business fails after X amount of time because it fizzles away. So I think to your point.
Safe spot.
Exactly.
Like a lot of times if you're at a company, you don't feel it's safe. You don't feel it's safe to come up with an idea that's outside of the box. So sometimes you sit there on your really good idea, right, in a group and you'll be like, I don't think they're stupid, it's ridiculous. So we made it a safe space, so we really said, I've got a better stupid idea, no, that's my stupid idea.
Yeah.
And it's become a safe space, therefore we can get creative.
Yeah.
But if you don't create a safe space.
Right.
Right, and the creativity fizzles, in
Exactly.
your business, you probably see it all the time, you gotta
Exactly.
come up with optimal ideas.
Well, I just came into a company, like a chain of, like personal training, private group fitness gyms. To come in and like evaluate their social media, and they basically wanted me to tell them like when to post and what to post it and like what's gonna get us new leads. And I know they probably didn't love what I had to hear, but we talked about a lot of different post fillers and things that you can do, but. The one, the takeaway I talk with a lot of my clients is we put a strategy in place, a new strategy. But I recently heard this, and it's true, it's like your audience is a brand. Should get sick of their social media after a couple months. It should be different. It should not look the same. And that doesn't, it doesn't make sense. Oh, I have to sit and argue with my clients. They're like, what am I hiring you for? So it is, but it's that delicate balance of always, how can we do this and how can we do it better? And that's that mindset.
Okay, any last thoughts there?
I come at this lens a little bit from the educational side, obviously working with students and our faculty and staff and now alums every day. And I think one of the biggest things that we can do is continue to share resources. I think that there's so much to be gained from partnering with different people or exploring new opportunities, whether it's just sharing a book or an article, or hey, I saw this and I thought you might find it interesting, or hey, I'm going to this event, you know what, I don't want to go by myself, why don't you come with me? And that may be because my whole job is sharing resources, but it really is that opportunity of just expanding your network within your network. And so finding ways, whether it's something as simple as sharing a cool book. One I read recently is called Do Nothing by Celeste Headley. Amazing book. You should totally read it. And it's things like that you can find that someone's like, oh yeah, this is perfect, and ways that you can just grow. And whether it resonates with you today, tomorrow, 5 years from now, just those opportunities to just continue to find the different ways to engage and just to build out that community we have within women as ourselves, I think is extremely important. We know each other best and we can continue to help each other in the best ways we know how.
Lifting one another up rather than seeing each other as competition.
1,000,000%.
Great, excellent point. Yes, that deserves a clap. I think. The last question, then we'll get into Q&A, and I pose this to each of you, and I know it's hard to think of something, but we're gonna try. In one quick bite, one sentence before we wrap up, there's so many good nuggets and things that you all have imparted upon this audience tonight. If there's one thing that we all remember, what do each of you think we should be taking away from this? One quick, if nothing else resonated, this is the thing. It's a little pressure, I'm sorry.
I would just say start now, and whatever that means to you, just do it, because you just, it sounds a little cliche, you truly just do not know what's gonna happen tomorrow, and there's also never going to be a perfect time. I loved your story, but yeah, you just gotta go do it. Sometimes, you just don't, it's hard to sometimes need the reason to have that fire under your butt, but hopefully, something, from tonight gave you, that push to do it, and if that has ever been something that is, I've always kind of wanted to start a business, but I don't know. There is never, ever gonna be a good time.
So you're right, sometimes it takes that one push. I think we were talking about that when Malisse and that. Sometimes it just takes that one push to get you over the edge and take the leap, and then you're there and you're doing it.
You do it with someone else, it's more fun.
Yeah.
Share the risk.
Any other comments?
This is a tough one, but I would say you don't have to necessarily take the leap to entrepreneurship to make a big change. So I would say go ahead in any position you're at, whether it's parenting, whatever, but start thinking and cliche outside the box and get creative and just think of how do I make next week better than last week, and from a holistic approach. Whatever you're doing.
Right, Rome wasn't built in a day. Small steps really make it. Kate, last thought there.
Different is okay. It is okay to do something that you never imagined that you'd be doing. Sitting with a microphone, talking to an audience is not how I typically would stand in front of an audience, but it is exactly what I should be doing. And this is still just as impactful as the work that I did when I was singing in Italian or doing something in a different type of stage and setting. And so I did, over in Italy too. Oh my gosh, I don't know.
Get her a couple glasses of wine.
But I think it's, even though this is different, the setting is different, the feeling is different, my voice sounds different. It's okay, and sometimes that is the best way that you can approach it. Your resume can be different, it doesn't have to look like the cookie cutter piece that you send in when you're looking at that new job, whether it's entrepreneurial, corporate world, nonprofit, wherever you're looking. It's okay. And I think once we take the time to embrace that we can be okay in this kind of uncomfortability realm, and that we can brand ourselves in ways that are uniquely us and what they truly mean to be yourself, I think that's when we find the most growth, is by taking those opportunities, finding what it means to redefine it. And if it happens like 5 times in your lifetime, that's okay too. It doesn't have to be the same from your 20s to your 50s and beyond.
Right.
So I think just keeping that mindset together, going back to the entrepreneurial mindset, it really is about that, taking that risk and continuing to have that grit, push through.
Exclamation point, that was perfect, yeah, I love it. Well, thank you, ladies, all 3 of you, for sharing your incredible insights and thoughts. I know my head is probably swirling with a lot of questions for you all, and I'd love to pick each of your brains, like many in this room and probably on Zoom. So we'll move into our Q&A now. So I'll start with, we'll just raise hands and then we'll have a microphone circulating the room. All right, so we'll start with you.
Hi guys, thank you so much. Malisse, I saw you present at Women of Note last year and I was on that, so thank you so much.
Well,
for-
thanks for coming.
That was amazing, thank you. My name's Shannon Greathouse, so I'm the founder of LaunchNet and piggybacks the company. Were there points where, I'm sure there were, can you tell us about a time when you felt like quitting and going to a corporate job again, or back to a safe space?
How about running away?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Not going to a job, but literally leaving town. Yeah, from the get-go, I could say, you sent me quite the microphone on that one. When we started out, I had just graduated in 1988 and my husband had half ownership of a bar that was next door, that was called the River Pub. And it was a very rough bar, very rough clientele. And I used to get up, and he was going to Cleveland State part-time at the time, and worked extremely hard at this bar, and I would get phone calls and it opened at 6 a.m. because it was like a 3-shift place. So it opened at 6 a.m. and I would get phone calls at 5:30 in the morning that, barmaid Anna didn't show up for work. Get out of bed, throw my hair in a ponytail, 22 years old, run down to work, start cooking eggs, pouring beer and shots and whatnot. Very hard, many hours, 6 days a week. Just working from morning till late night and, not making money, just really trying to hang on to what you had and not lose anything. So it was very unrewarding. Very unrewarding day and not feeling like you had anything at the end of the week to show for it. So working super hard and not feeling like you're successful is one of the worst. One of the worst things. If you can't pay your bills, you can't live a life, you have no free time, you don't, sit in furniture at your house, you don't even turn lamps on because you come home and it's dark. So plenty of times that were like that, where I absolutely wanted to run away and quit. Not so much quit since then because I've been able to be more successful, so at least I could work super hard, but turn things around or get things going or get things on a positive track, which is very reinforcing in a positive way. I will say that when I opened Marble Room, it was probably one of the hardest things I've done from anxiety. Like I never really understood what anxiety meant, like when people say they have anxiety, until I felt it. I'm like, oh, it's that constant heartbeat thing that doesn't stop in the middle of the night. Like you feel it. I'm like, that's what anxiety is. I see. And no matter what I tried, it was so hard to go to sleep at night and not think of every single problem of just trying to get the phones answered. We couldn't get the phones answered. People were ringing and no matter how many people we had on the phones, there wasn't answering and they were mad and they'd come in mad and people would come and say, I heard terrible things about you and and just get attacked sometimes. Like literally when we started, people would think you were me sitting at that table and they'd come up to you and yell at you. So I'd have to go apologize to you and say, I'm sorry, you got yelled at, they thought you were me. So I've had difficult times and again, you can't start a brand new business sometimes and know what you're gonna expect. So Marble Room was one of those kind of brand new businesses. It wasn't a rollout of an existing company that we're just gonna, roll out another Capital Grill, we've had 75 of them prior. This is a brand new concept in a brand new place, with a brand new menu and a brand new staff, brand new processes and procedures, completely untried. And there was just a huge learning curve, and every single minute your brain was just, how do I fix this? How do I fix this? How do I make it better tomorrow? How do I make it better tomorrow? So it was super high anxiety, although it didn't feel like quitting that time, just felt how to get through it, We did, and now we meet at our annual meeting, with the management staff, we sit there and we have a list of all the things we did better this year. And it's like our favorite meeting, and we sit there and just every little invention that we came up with to make things smoother, better, easier, better quality, whatever we've done positive, we just sit and just roll around in it. So that's it. I wanted to.
Was that for everyone? Or to start? Oh, many times. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll always come back to, I think the point I made earlier was that I know that, even on the hard days, having the control to be able to come up with those ideas and do the things that you may take for granted, for me, is always the the trade-off that I know I wouldn't want to give up. But there were a lot of days where, the benefits don't outweigh, the negatives. There's definitely tough days, but it's again, always going back to what your long-term goals are, what the long run is, and choosing every single day to just keep going.
And overcoming, you need to overcome it, when something really difficult is in your path and you can overcome it and you become better because of it. And then you can look back at that and say, oh, we did it, we made it, we fixed it, we cured it, we overcame it, it's successful now. When another time in this restaurant was in 2009, I had been home for years raising my kids, and we were in the process of selling this to another restaurant, won't mention it. Anyway, it wasn't working out really well. So my husband came home one day, he's in another business, he's in real estate. He came home and he said, I'm gonna have to close LockKeepers. It's just losing so much money and can't keep it going anymore, and there's just nothing we can do. And I hadn't worked in many years, and I'm like, oh my God, but Carmi still works in the kitchen. You can't, what's Carmi gonna do? And what's Mary gonna do? My server who'd been with me for so many years. And I knew the staff that was still here. And I said, okay, if I can get a babysitter, if I can find someone to watch the kids and drive them around, which is the hardest part of watching kids, is figuring out where they gotta go. So finding a driving babysitter is the hardest thing. But I said, if I can, I said, I will try my best. Should I give it a shot? He goes, yeah, that'd be great. Can you do that? I said, I'm gonna try. So my sister-in-law happened to be wanting to go back to school, so she took care of my children. And I came here, and Brian, my manager, who's running around this building today, was here, and he and I sat at a table downstairs, and I got myself a little laptop, and I bought my little briefcase and sat at a table downstairs. I said, all right, let's figure this out. And it was a height of recession, so people were not dining out. Every time you turn on the TV, they were saying, well, you can save money by not going to restaurants right now. And that was the advice. So the restaurant was doing horribly. People were told not to dine out. So we just sat there and said, what can we do? What can we do? And I said, let's, revisit the concept. Let's make it more Italian. Let's go back to our Italian roots so it's more affordable. There's more value. Let's get a happy hour going, because happy hour is fun and creates a vibe at the bar that people want to be here. So let's do a really cool happy hour, and let's just do it the old fashioned way. I sat at the table. I will be the hostess. I will talk to every guest. And we went from literally, we're gonna close the doors that month, and just the old fashioned way. The only way I knew how to do it, because that's how I started back when I was 22 years old. The only way I knew how to do it was kind of like you do it at home. You're just nice to people, make sure the food's good. You're nice, you greet people, and that's how we did it. So we built LockKeepers back up from closing to what it is now, and we probably had our best year ever this past year. So There was another almost. Was it almost wasn't it, so.
Another question, please.
Any other questions?
You've covered a lot of ground here. Any questions from Zoom or Q&A? No question? Okay, perfect. I got one right here.
Sorry, I used the restroom and just sat back down. This is like right off the rip. of
There you
like,
go.
Things I need to know, so that's why I'm here, like in moments of adversity, like, you know, most of us are doing things we didn't think we'd be doing. Thank goodness for communities like this. So, you know, in those moments, I mean, I know for me, that's the reason why I'm here. It's like at that moment, I'm like, what can I find? And thank goodness whoever put this on, because it came in my email that I still use from BW, but how do you, you know, whether it's motherhood, whether it's life, whether it's family doesn't get it, whether it's friends don't get it, what did you do to keep the blinders on and stay focused and keep yourself refreshed and keep the purpose?
I'll hop in a bit here, and I think that we talked about this a little bit with quitting, but it's quitting and pivoting are synonymous at times, and that quitting something doesn't have to be an end to what you were already doing, but a pivot is kind of that rejuvenation of something that you kind of already had working in the background. And so I think of pivots really as, and those can be the blinders that exist, because it's allowing you to kind of reframe or refocus an idea that was maybe old, a little stale, something that you kind of been living with for a while, but it allows you to be able to find new ways to find innovation in it. Tricks and trades that we use in entrepreneurship are sitting down and ideating with yourself. So it's just really just flirting to brain dump and see what pops out. After you get done doing that, then go through and edit. Find where you find connections. And you can do this in any career, any facet, any way. I did it when I was trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do next in my life after saying, okay, my career shut down. I'm not going to perform full time anymore. What am I going to do? And what's funny is, speaking of pivots, even tonight, I saw a classmate of mine who's somewhere back there who I met through BW, and she said, hey, are you still performing? I was like, kind of, you know, I've been a little busy, you know, some stuff going on. She's like, well, I might have a connection for you. And even that tonight is something that it's that blinder thing where you may think that there was an end, there was a stop, but it really is just a pivot. So I think kind of finding moments of that, and that it really is kind of a cycle type process. And we don't really have true stops when we're kind of progressing through.
No, I could go right off that and say, you know, when I was freelance independent for a majority of my 20s, really. And I was always doing things by myself, but had, you know, the sole decision-making power. There's, you know, a lot of positives that came with that, but a lot of, you know, negatives. But when I was around last fall, the time came to when I was having these conversations around possibly merging with another company, a big part of this was losing, you know, the possibility of losing my identity as a female business owner. My business was self-named after my last name, and those are all things that in going in with the partnership, I knew that in that, like, thinking that as a chapter that I was not only leaving behind, but without that, I would not be making this, you know, new kind of business venture. So instead of I had a couple of people say, oh my gosh, that's so sorry, I'm using Starta strategies. I'm like, no, that was like really that's what I'm looking for, forward era in my life that now no longer really defines where I am. I'm in a team where I'm, you know, sharing, you know, partnership with another person, and I take what I had during that time independently and know that I've learned just in the last 7 months or so that I've been merged that there is so much more that I can do, we all can do in partnership than alone. Things like my own limiting beliefs and just skill sets, things I just was not good at, that I was trying to do because we're just trained to just have to make it all work and just be resourceful. And, you know, I needed those years of trying to figure it out and figuring out just as important of what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, excuse me. And then finding someone to fill those gaps. So really just, I love what you said, really about just seeing it's not always an end or not, you know, it's a pivot. It's something you know, may not expect, but.
I like the identity piece. I think that's huge. Because we we identify as our business or as a mother or as a wife or in all these different roles, and when something stops, sometimes that identity feels like it's in jeopardy. And I really like what you said to that, is it was kind of figuring out what the heck that looked like after this. And it's a really poignant piece that we all navigate. So I love that.
Malisse, what keeps you focused in your ventures?
Probably the mindset that you can't fail. Sometimes you can pivot, which I'm a huge believer in, and I love that word, because I will at times make a big pivot, if it's an option. However, when you've actually taken the leap and you have signed papers and your name is on a mortgage and your house is attached to that mortgage and your reputation is attached to the whole thing, and sometimes quitting is not an option, and sometimes getting through the day, you have to get through the day because you're the leader and you have to keep everybody else motivated, right? So if you have a mindset of, quitting or I can't do this, or this is hard, you certainly can't lead the team to accomplish what you need to get accomplished. So someone's got to be out there saying, oh, we can do this. Come on, we're going to do this.
Seems like it's about harnessing that grit and audacity to just keep going.
Have to.
Any final lingering questions before we wrap up? Oh, I see one more.
How do you balance your creative big ideas with your lack of finances? When we live in a country
I'll
that,
give you a quick one. There's never finances, just so you know, like, there's never marketing finances. Like, we were just talking before that companies, small businesses rarely have any marketing budget, right?
Yeah.
So money for, I think, most small businesses is always a problem. So you're constantly balancing, your priorities. Like the ice machine, my ice machine broke last 2 weeks ago. We have to buy ice every single day till we get it repaired. That's like $1,000 a day of ice delivery, right? That wasn't in our budget. So now we have to start thinking about how are we going to, how our sales are gonna handle it, and what's gonna take a hit, or what are we not gonna buy that we planned on purchasing that we can't. So money is, for a small business, is always gonna be juggling priorities.
Yes, I mean, amen to all that. Most of my clients, smaller businesses come and say, hey, I have X amount to spend. What is gonna be the best use really of this spend? So a mindset that's always, I think, really helped me throughout entrepreneurship and always pass on to my clients and any small business owners is just resourcefulness. And
Yeah.
knowing there's a lot of free tools out there,
Yeah.
things like Canva, I'm sure you guys, a lot of you are aware of.
Yeah,
A lot of-
how to use Canva.
Yes, a lot of online creative tools that allow you to mess around and, ideate and come up with these ideas at a very low cost. So I would just explore what's out there in terms of AI content generation. I'm speaking more, digitally, but there's no, but there is a lot of really fun ways that said, whether it's design, that you can experiment, but I would just go back to that word resourcefulness. Use your friends that, somebody who wants to become a photographer who needs to build out their portfolio to take photos if they need it. I have clients who want to start a YouTube presence, but they don't have $5,000 to hire a professional videographer. So, we work with them on how to use your iPhone to to shoot short form videos. So resourcefulness, I would say, is really just, work with what you got and you'd be surprised with what you could come up with.
Speaking on what you've got, LaunchNet. So anyone who is a BW grad, you are able to come to LaunchNet for free
Set you right up.
and access, you so did, not planned. You can come and access our resources for free, one-on-one venture coaching meetings. You can talk and we can set you up with entrepreneurs and residents like Kayla, and other folks that we bring in based on what businesses look like. We have funding available. Like Maddie mentioned earlier, we have awarded over $72,000 to small businesses in the last 2 years alone. My funding is closed for this year, but guarantee we'll be heading into another set of funding in 2025. There are just so many opportunities within Northeast Ohio to connect. And if you're joining us today as just a friend of BW, Case Western, Kent State, Lorraine County Community College, and John Carroll, almost forgot them. They are part of the Neo LaunchNet network. So if you have friends or colleagues, or you yourself are also an alum of one of those institutions, they have the same resources we do, among many others here in Northeast Ohio that are called other names than LaunchNet. But they also provide these free resources that are available for alums. Or if you have students going through in any of these programs, we are also available for them. So finding these things, and we also have some nonprofit partners in the area. Jumpstart in Cleveland is a fantastic program to access. They have free webinars, they have access to different incubator programs. And then their counterpart down in Akron, Bounce Innovation Hub, wonderful. So there are just so many ways to just kind of go into this Northeast Ohio community that really don't exist in the same capacity in a lot of other major cities. So I really recommend just kind of doing a quick Google search. And if you don't know where to find them, come talk to me. I can help you find them. That's what my job is to really just be a connector and find those resources, because it's hard, especially with capital. We know there's a statistic that we didn't mention, which I'm kind of excited to share. Women have less than 2% of the venture capital that is available for entrepreneurs. That's insane. And so our job in roles like this, where we're helping support entrepreneurs, is to help you find access to those resources and be able to build with what we do have and get more women and all entrepreneurs into those areas. So I'm gonna do my one little self pitch in the back. Jason, my intern, has been wonderful. He's one of our only gentlemen here tonight. He has on back there our table. If you didn't grab any swag, please feel free to grab some of our awesome ducks that are back there. But there's also business cards. There's a QR code on the back, an ability to sign up for a meeting with me, again, free. And I hope I get a chance to connect with lots of you individually either tonight or sometime this fall semester. But know that we'll be around, and that whether it's a connection with me for a resource or someone else here in Northeast Ohio, that is what we're here to do, is to continue to network and help.
Excellent point, Kate. And I think just another way, if I may, that BW can be an ongoing resource for you after you've graduated. And this group, this Women for BW network of extraordinary women, is just one example. Kate's LaunchNet is another example. So don't forget about BW when you're looking for those resources, because they're there and they're strong. They're really helpful. So,
oh, and this group also provided me a scholarship when I was at BW. So even the round circle, I'm very grateful for all of you.
and you made everybody in this room proud who probably voted for you. So thank you for doing that. So I think we'll wrap up. And again, please feel free to seek out these ladies for any additional questions or just conversation for one-on-one. Great questions and an amazing conversation. Thank each of you for participating in this and sharing your wisdom and just helping us engage our alums in what is a really hard thing to jump into. And so each of your perspectives is helpful. So really quickly before we move on, I also want to say thank you to the folks who were online and joined us today. Please feel free to stick around for a couple more minutes. We have some upcoming events to throw your way. But to wrap up our evening, I'll invite back Kathy Papp from 96 and 02 and the Women for BW co-chair to close us out. Thank you, Kathy. Thanks, Maddie. There we go.
Alrighty, so thank you again all for joining us today for some time socializing and learning from our inspirational panelists. Special thanks to them one more time. Now, as a reminder, today we're hoping to sign up or renew the memberships of 5 Women for BW members. And I hope that you'll consider joining this extraordinary group of women that make an impact on BW students. Joining is easy and makes such a difference for the women students at BW. You can join at your table with the QR code or visit the registration table on your way out. Now is a great time to get involved. So speaking of involvement, we'd like you to save a few dates for some of our upcoming alumni events. We have the Masters Master Golf Outing. That's presented by the MBA Association on Monday, August 19th. As a thank you for attending tonight's event, the early bird discount price on foursomes has been extended. So you can get your foursome registered this evening before you leave for $725. Next is BW versus Wittenberg Alumni Reception and Tailgate. That's on Friday, September 6th and Saturday, September 7th. Then the nineties and 2000s Rewind Reunion, that will be Friday, September 27th. We're also looking for reunion ambassadors and from the classes of the nineties and early 2000s. So you can see one of our BW staff for any questions or if you'd like to volunteer. Then we have Bold and Gold Weekend on Friday, September 27th and Saturday, September 28th. So you'll join us for celebrating the BW family for a weekend filled with special homecoming and parent and family weekend activities. And then Alumni Reunion Weekend will be Friday, May 16th and Saturday, May 17th of 2025. So we hope to see you back on campus soon. I'd like to thank Malisse and Sabre Hospitality one more time for their incredible hosting. And I want to share support of tonight's event. And then also special thanks to the BW Alumni Engagement Team, especially Ilya, who helped put everything together. I also did want to mention, we have a card up here, a thank you card for Linda Helmer. If anybody would like to come up and sign it for her, we'll take care of getting that over to her. And then finally, thank you all again for joining us today. We hope today's event has inspired and empowered you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.